Breathe it all the way down and relax as you release the breath. Take one more nice deep breath. Just really fill up with oxygen. And as you release the breath, relax. Set your day aside and be here now. And know with me that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And that love flows through me, in me, as me, just as I know that it does each and every one of you. You are that love. You are that love in motion. And in that love, everything is possible. So as we are facing change, even if it looks chaotic and everything is turning, that love will hold us safe. And things will fall out exactly the way that they need to. There is a place to go, a place to be, and a place to do. And it is seeking you now. And in that love, healing is possible. Not only is it possible, it is inevitable. We don't always get to choose what that healing looks like, but it will happen. And so we are knowing for those seeking peace, healing, we are knowing comfort, and we are knowing peace, and we are knowing that the resources are making themselves available now. I invite you to take one deep breath into love and know with me the gratitude of knowing that love on a first name basis, whatever that name may be. And I release my word into law, knowing it is done, even as I speak my word, and so it is.
And so it is. Like how? Like what? Like what am I supposed to say to that? That right there. Can you feel the love tonight? That right there, that sentiment, that feeling. That feeling we had in that song, that feeling we had when Ruth and Cartha walked in the room, the feeling we had when Dick and Denise walked in the room, the feeling we had when you walked in the room. We got those people on the phone over there in the hospital. That's Bill's mother, who's 85, I think. Came in from San Antonio to see him. Had planned the trip long before he was hospitalized, I believe. Well, what I have for you tonight, some science of mind. Doesn't that sound exciting? Let's bring the energy in the room way down. I want to love like God loves. And that was what we talked about 2 weeks ago. The overarching reality that loves unconditionally as we are expressions of it. Loves us unconditionally, loves us no matter what. Can only do this because it is an infinite system and it has no capacity then to compare or judge, evaluate, weigh, and so on. Then there's how it loves down here on the ground, and that is through us. You are God's love. I am God's love. We are God's love. So are animals. So are cockatiels. So are trees. So is nature generally. But they're less complicated about it. I was reading an article about cats the other day, not the movie. How when you sleep, if you have a cat, the cat will climb up on you and it will sleep on your chest, and it will want to sleep very close to your face. And why is this so? Asked the article. And one reason was because you feed the thing. And they're always hungry. When they're not sleeping, they're hungry because you feed the thing. But the article said, no, actually research shows that's not it at all. Cats actually, they like you. They like that you feed them, but they develop a real close emotional bond to you. And they sleep on your chest because you're warm. You have a heartbeat. It's soothing to them, the rhythm of the thing. And because you're their alpha pack leader. Did I tell you all this on Sunday? Okay, I hate it when I do that.
No.
And everybody's being polite. They're like smiling and they're like, God, I just heard this whole story. I hope he doesn't tell the whole thing again because it was really tiresome. the
No, you
first
did not.
time. Well, you're the alpha member of their little tribe, this cat. But then there was the part, and I got wet-eyed. I had a cat when I was a kid. It says, not only will they sleep on your chest for all of those reasons, but they'll sleep with their back to you. And the reason they do this is because a cat, even when it's asleep, is hypervigilant. Any sound, any smell, they will defend. Now they're defending you. They're sleeping on your chest, facing out that door. They got you. They got you. Anything goes wrong, they got you. That's God's love. I didn't know this about cats. I didn't know this about a lot of things. But there's stuff around us here all the time that's got us. There's stuff looking out for you. There are energies, seen and unseen, forces, known and unknown, that have you and are protecting you and are holding you and are comforting you. That's life here on the ground. Ain't it grand? All we have to do is bust some paradigms about how that has to look, how that has to be, what form and shape that love comes in, and when it's really happening. I had an unnerving experience the other night. I went to sort of a high-end supermarket. I was shopping there. I was down the bread aisle, and I saw there's bread, there's white bread, there's wheat bread, there's whole wheat bread, there's bagels, there's all kinds of stuff. And then there's this, oh my God, what is that? And what it was a loaf of crustless white bread. And it was, have you seen one of these? It was the most alarming thing I had seen in a long time.
Finger sandwich.
In his plastic sleeve, and all it was a white bread loaf with the crust taken off, and it looked like a block of tofu. And it was truly alarming. And then once I realized what it was just unappetizing. And I thought, no matter how hungry I might be, no matter how many wonderful sandwiches might beckon to me to be made, I will never in my life, were the last loaf of bread on the earth, buy that thing. Even though I've been known to take the crust off, I still would not do that because it didn't look like a loaf of bread. And then I thought, highly evolved spiritual being that I am, I then thought that was a ridiculous thought to have, because that's probably very convenient and handy for people, especially if they have finicky kids or packing lunches for or want the crust taken off. Whoever's doing that now, it's, yada, yada, yada. Why am I up in judgment about this thing? Because it doesn't look like what I expect it to look like. And when you have that sort of paradigm resistance, paradigm busting resistance, you miss a lot. In fact, weirdly enough, we were just talking about this in the class that ended at 6:30 today. I didn't tell them the bread story. Janet will vouch for that. But about several of us in the room were wearing the color red on account of it's Valentine's week and so on. And one of the students brought up, and we've talked about this before, nobody has the same experience of the color red. Every time you look at red, you're looking at it through every experience you've ever had of red, all the way back to the crib, probably beyond. Everything that's ever happened that's been associated in any way with that color is what you're perceiving it through. And the only thing we can agree on is it's red. But whether we like it or whether we don't, all of that flies out into this big subjective atmosphere. And you and I walk around being triggered constantly by things and anchored by other things that we have unconscious attachment to.
all the science of mind is about becoming conscious of the attachments that we had. You don't come in here and we push you around and we tell you what you should do and shouldn't do or how you should think or any of this kind of thing. We just say, look at your motivations, look at your intentions, look at why you do what you do. And when you do that, you become more open to listening to other people's intentions and declarations. And you know what you call that? Clear communication, effective communication in relationships. And you know what happens when you have effective communication in relationships? Relationships work better. Governments work better. Whole planets work better. Wars don't break out as often. There's not distrust and suspicion and paranoia and weirdness. Life is pretty good. When people are different from you, you run toward them instead of away from them. You want to find out more about them. Isn't that interesting? That's how love works. And you have people in your life that you care deeply about and you value, and you know what? They change. And that's the greatest. You can also read magazine articles on things that threaten relationships. And they say it's sex and money and, well, those are the two big kids, cats. But it's mostly sex and money. The thing that really threatens a relationship is change. Any kind of change. You're not who I thought you were. You've changed. If you're with somebody more than about 10 seconds, they've changed. Actually, you changed when you met them. And if we had no change at all and pretended there were no such thing as interpersonal change, we'd be riding on a planet that's sailing through space as part of its solar system at a gazillion miles an hour. And when you look out into space, the stars that you see around us are slightly in a different place from where they were, because we are in a place we've never been before. Right now, tonight, this earth is moving to a different place than it's ever been before. We're all of us changing. And yet we sometimes say, well, I'm going to stay put. I'm going to sit right here and I shall not be moved from this spot. When in fact the whole thing is zipping along, right? People are changing. Your children change. As soon as they're born, they start to grow and they start to understand more. And because it happens very quickly at that stage of life, and it seems to slow down in other stages of life, later stages of life, we're more prepared for that change, and they're outgrowing clothes, and shoes, and moving right along. Whereas when you hit 45, you're more or less the same then as you are when you're 55, at least in terms of the outer world, except you're not, are you? You've learned a whole lot. I had a wild and wonderful experience. David was with me yesterday, and several others of Creative Life. We laid Bobby Cicchini to rest, our practitioner emeritus, a beautiful funeral down in West Houston at Woodlawn. And I'll tell you a quick story. I saw a guy there. It was a two-part funeral, one inside, and then we went to the gravesite. There was a guy at the gravesite who, when we finished that part, he was kind of hanging back, and he had a long salt and pepper ponytail. And I went over and introduced myself to him, and he said his name, and I said, I won't say it since we're recording, because, that, but he said his name, and I said, oh, it's good to meet you. And I, wait a minute. Turns out his mother was my practitioner. When I first got into it, she's been gone, she's off the planet herself now, but when I first got involved in Science of Mind, I had issues. Not that I don't now, but I had different ones then. I had flamboyant ones then. Okay, I drank, I did drugs, I was crazy, and I thought, let me consult with a practitioner. I did some other things too, like getting 12-step, but his mom was somebody, she's 20 years older than I was, and I'd sat through classes with her. We were both in, because I was getting ready to take prac training, and I really liked how her mind worked. And I felt she was very compassionate, And so I went to her and I asked her if she'd do some prayer work for me around my addictions. And she said, sure, And she said, will you also treat about my son? Because she said, you're learning this stuff. Would you treat about my son? And I said, sure. And so I did, and she did. Off we went. I got sober. It'll be 35 years this weekend. And then I went often did my thing and came out to this side of town, and people moved away and changed and all the rest of this stuff. And she had wanted him to be better. She had wanted him to get clean. And he told me yesterday, in August of this year, he'll have 35 years.
Wow.
How awesome is that? So he's changed. And I only met him once or twice back in the day, but when you don't see somebody for 40 plus years, they look different to you. But you think you don't look different to them.
Yeah.
Have you been to a school reunion? I'm still who I was, but man, you've aged. What happened? What happened to you, No, everybody's changing. And this stuff on the outside, this is the least meaningful of all of it. Your hair turns gray, your hair turns loose, It doesn't matter. What matters I didn't make that up. What matters is what's going on inside of you. Do you know more about yourself today than you did yesterday? If so, you're a better lover of life. If so, you're a better godling if you know more about yourself. And you're more easily disposed to allow people to be exactly who they are and delight in that. Delight in that. You are each other's demonstration. You are each other's answer to prayer. Often we think of prayer as something I send out a prayer and I'm ready to receive, man. I'm ready, come on, life. I'm ready to receive, but I'm what somebody else is receiving. I'm the gift that somebody else is asking for when you show up in somebody else's life that way, okay? And just remember that whenever we're having this awareness in this room amongst ourselves who are students of metaphysics and so forth, we're also having this awareness about the people driving by on the road out there tonight that we don't know and we never will know. And if we do meet them, we'll not know they were driving by this place tonight and so forth. We won't put it all together. And they're on amazing errands. They may drive by here twice a day or more, or this may be the only time in their lives they're ever going to go down that street. And I know for a fact a couple of them have turned in here and stuck. Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
And they like what we're doing, but they may never, ever explore. But they will go forth with a blessing about them. They will go forth with our love about their shoulders to know that they are the experience the Spirit is having in the world by means of them. So that is the nature of love. And this is what we're doing. And the only point I really wanted to make was just to reinforce the awareness that you have. Because people ask this question, they'll say, well, if the universe is neutral and it's all energy and it's all this, and it's kind of all quantum physics and stuff, then where's the love? Now, when I was a little kid, I heard about a God who numbered every hair on my head and knew every fallen sparrow, that kind of stuff. And while that's a little creepy, I'd like to know that there's a God who at least gives a care about how I am today. And if I'm sad and if I'm in distress, that will come and put its arm around me and comfort me. Or like that amazing song in the garden that I started singing it one night here when Bob Biddison was still with us. And he fell apart. His mother used to sing it to him. She sang it well, unlike me, but it's, he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me I am his own, and the love we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I want some of that. Not just a crisp clinical delivering, kind of assembly line process of spiritual manifestation. Job, money, friends, here you go, off you go, soldier, with your duffel bag full of all of this stuff. I want some sentiment out of my God. I want some sentiment. You know where I get that? You. In her. I get it. These folks, that's where love shows up. And for that, we are, as we say in the 12-step programs, when you come to the very end of the 12 steps, say, for that I am responsible. God does this, and I turn this over, and I surrender that, and I have no power over this here, but for this, I am responsible. For this, so for that sharing of love, we are each of us responsible. So with that, I wish you a very happy Valentine's Day and Valentine's Week. And as Shakespeare said, may your heart's desires be with you. May your heart's desires be with you. Let's affirm and know together now. There is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere manifesting, everywhere radiant and beautiful. And that full moon that is now turned to waning in the last couple of days is nevertheless a reminder as she comes around in her 13 circuits in the year of the fullness of Spirit's love for its own creation. As our Jewish friends say, and will be preparing to say again at their Passover holiday, Dayenu, it would have been enough. It would have been enough. If just some good had been meted out to us, it would have been enough. Just some kindness, some grace. But look at all this. Look at this beauty. Look at these friends and loved ones that we have. Look at that moon in the sky. Look at that sun that will follow her in the morning, enabling us to work, to see clearly every crevasse, every niche of the physical terrain around us. Look at the diversity of nature. Look at the realms within and the unseen energies that surround us, the intuitive knowings that pop like flashbulbs, the hunches, the bits of guidance here and there that have us show up at exactly the right time and in the right place. How it is that we can have a question we mull over in our minds and somebody out loud gives the answer. We hadn't asked it out loud. So we realize that between out loud and in private, there's really no difference. There's one mind. It's always on. It's always receptive. It's always responsive. I affirm and know for each of us, the desires of our hearts are coming true. The moment by moment, we step into a greater awareness of who we are, what we've come here to do, and what made us, our source, that issued us from within itself, and that walks with us every step of the way, as the body we wear, the thoughts we think, feelings we have, and everything else. For this oneness, for this union, for this communion, for this community that comes together tonight and at all these times to be of support to one another, to be in the joy together. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into that one life I know is my Mother, Father, God. I call it done, and so it is.
And so it is.
All right.